Welcome, everyone, to Squid and Ultimate Leaf Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs fan. Joining me, as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, have you stopped smiling yet? Folks, the reason I say that is Rick's son Justin's team, Fort Wayne Comets, won the ECHL's Kelly Cup over the weekend. So big shout out to Justin and to the team.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting, Mike. It was, generally he plays in Cincinnati, but they didn't win this year. And as soon as Ben Boudreau, Bruce's son, who coaches the Comets, found out, he called him right away and said, "Would you like to come and play here?" And of course he said, "Sure." And it's funny because he told me early in the season, he said, "You know, Dad," he said, "we have a pretty good team here." He said, "We might have a team that can win the whole thing." And I said, "Well, it's pretty early." He goes, No. He said, we could win the whole thing." I said, "Okay, well, sure enough, they did."
Well, I got to ask you this, too. We mentioned Ben Boudreau, Bruce's son, and we're looking to get Ben on in the next couple of weeks to talk about this season and his coaching career. But Squid, speaking of father-sons, you won a Kelly Cup as a coach with South Carolina in 1997. I got to say, probably, I tried to look it up. I couldn't find it, that you and Justin may be one of the only or one of the few father-son combos to win as a coach and a player in the league.
Yeah, I would have to think probably, I don't think there'd be many, if any. I know Gabby and Ben, obviously, as coaches, but as a coach and a player, I don't recall any of the guys that coached that had kids that went on and won an ECHL championship. So I'm not positive about that, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice one to hang your hat on anyway. Everybody's always looking for records and things to hold high, and there's one for you guys, and hopefully you can get to do it again. Listen, folks, we've heard us talk before. We're big supporters of ECHL. We've had players, coaches, Spit and Chicklets, Paul Bezinet, who was an ex-ECHLer himself and NHLer, to speak about the quality of the play in the league.
Well, it's changed drastically from, obviously, when I was coaching from 93 to 97. Back then there weren't that many NHL players that were under contract or American League players that were sent down. Now they're using the ECHL pretty frequently, sending guys down, even guys that are on NHL contracts and NHL American League, and they're going down there for a year or two to get, see what it's like and get used to playing at that kind of pace. And then a lot of teams are signing guys to American League deals and putting them in the ECHL. So if they have any injuries and they have to call someone up, they have someone to replace them. So the league has gotten a heck of a lot better than it was in 1993 or 97. And there's some pretty good hockey players in that league now.
Well, I don't know if the listeners are aware of this, but there are currently 16 countries represented in the National Hockey League. And as the game continues to branch out into different parts of the world, that number is only going to go up. So therefore, the maturation process to succeed at the pro level is essential as players continue to get younger every year. It only stands to reason. Going forward as a feeder league, ECHL's level of play can only accelerate in the development process as a result.
Well, I would like to see that, Mike, to be honest with you. I'd like to see them go even more that way, and maybe the NHL, really tie into it, and almost like baseball, where you have the major leagues and you got AAA, AA, A ball. So here is a great opportunity for the NHL to step in and say, okay, we're really going to use the East Coast League as a step for the young guys coming in to learn, like I said, the pace of the game and move on to the American League, and then hopefully one day play in the National Hockey League. And I know there's been, I think, around 700 players that have played in the ECHL that have played in the NHL now. Obviously not all of them had long careers or anything, but nonetheless, 700 players have moved up and played at least one game in the National Hockey League. I think that's pretty good. And I think probably in the last 10, 12, 15 years is when most of them have gone up and played there.
Well, as Doug McLean told us last week on our podcast, to play one game in the National Hockey League, you're an exceptional player. You're playing at an elite level, and to get to that next level, even to play those games, speaks even more how good these guys are. And as I said, but these guys coming along and the way the game is changing, folks, do yourself a favor. If you get a chance to take game in, you're a hockey fan, you will not be disappointed. The value is there, and these guys play hard, and it's very, very good hockey. And listen, you never know. My winger here across from me, he could be standing behind one of the benches and surprise you one day. Maybe they lure him back out of retirement, back to behind the bench. So we'll see how it goes going down the road.
Well, they got a couple of new teams coming in this year too, in Iowa, I believe, and or Idaho, I believe, and then what's the other place in Georgia? Just below the border of South Carolina, little town, beautiful little town.
Savannah?
They're getting a team, and then
Savannah?
What is it? Yes, and Trois Rivières are coming into the league as well. And I think Savannah's not this year, but the following year. But Iowa and Trois Rivières are going to be this coming season. So, they're expanding. And if they ever get to 32 teams, then every NHL team could have that second tier of a farm team, so to speak.
Fantastic.
I think that would be great for the NHL. It'd be great for the ECHL. Be great for the American League as well.
Well, Squid appears to be heading that way, and we'll just watch with interest. But again, folks, take us up on the offer and take in the game when you can, because it's definitely worth it. Squid, got to ask you a question here. Have the hockey gods cut off the lines of communication with the Montreal Canadiens, or did they just not pay their internet bill because looks like the luck has run out?
You know what, Mike? I don't know if the luck has run out or they've just run up against a team that is very, very, very good and deep. And I think that's what it is. I mean, Tampa Bay is so far above everybody else. And unfortunately, the band is going to break up after this Stanley Cup final because they can't afford to keep all that many people. And they're probably going to lose 4 or 5 key players. Not their top players, but guys that are contributing in the playoffs and that are playoff-type players. Probably other guys are going to lose. And it's unfortunate, but hey, with a flat cap for the next 2 years, that's what's happening with Tampa and other teams around the league.
Well, prices looked here in the last couple of games, and that's not good for Montreal. And it shows on the score sheet, obviously, whereas Vasilevsky continues just not to give him a sniff.
This guy is unbelievable. His flexibility, his ability to get across and get pads on pucks and stuff is incredible. I mean, the guy's dialed in, and I'm not sure. I don't think there's a better goalie in the National Hockey League right now over the past couple of seasons than Vasilevsky. I really don't. I know what's his name in Vegas won the Vezina this year, Fleury, but I don't believe there's a better goalie in the National Hockey League than Vasilevsky right now.
Is it over tonight?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm going to watch with interest.
Yeah.
If it looks like Montreal is going to win later on in the game, I'll probably turn it off because I always love to see the Stanley Cup handed out.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but I think it ends tonight. I really do. I just don't think Montreal can play with Tampa and compete with them. I mean, they might get lucky tonight and win one game, but I can't see them winning any more. Now, mind you, I said that when they played Toronto, Winnipeg, and Vegas. So you never know whether or not they're capable of. You know what? They win one game. Then all of a sudden, they go to Tampa and maybe they squeak one out there. Price steals a game, and now it's a whole new series.
Yeah.
And anything can happen, but I don't see it happening.
Well, as we noted before game one, Tampa is highly scaled, fast, physical, with elite goaltending. Montreal, to compete at that, has to be aggressive physically, pray Price keeps it close, stay out of the penalty box, and hope for a break or two. None of the above is played out in 3 games so far. I mean, the door has opened a smidge. As we just mentioned, Vasilevsky has quickly shut that down. And I suspect Tampa, smelling blood in the water, will turn it up a notch in about an hour or so from now.
Yeah, I believe they will. And I think the big thing you said, Mike, that I think is the key is they got to stay out of the box. Tampa Bay's power play is running at over 40% in the playoffs. I mean, they are so good on the power play. They got two great units. And don't forget their back end. I mean, they're solid. They're big. They're physical. They're mobile. They move the puck extremely well. I mean,
They do it all.
it's unbelievable. They have it all.
Yeah. Well, we'll watch with interest, and we'll see with everybody else. But the next thing of interest, obviously, is coming up in next week's. Us here on our Monday, Wednesday shows will be talking about unrestricted forwards, and some of them Leafs may be looking at. A couple that were mentioned or were part of a group that possibly with Tampa will start with tonight as an example, who are over the cap, are going to lose players. That's a given. Two Bolts that would look good in Toronto uniforms, Barclay Goodrow at $925,000 and Blake Coleman at 1.8 mil are fantastic value at those prices. However, strong playoff performance.
If you can get them at those prices, Michael.
Well, I was just going to say, Rick, strong playoff performances are going to net them raises, probably pushing the number to starting with a 3. That is almost an immediate deal breaker for Toronto.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so you got to look at both of those guys too. That's 2 cups in a row.
Yep.
If they win for those guys, and they were big contributors to the fact that Tampa Bay won those 2 cups. So they're going to be looking for raises. I mean, it's not going to be astronomical. We know that. I don't believe the free agents are going to get exactly what they want this year, but I mean, they're going to be looking for 3.5. I just don't believe that. Well, Toronto certainly can't afford it. There's no question.
Well,
but how good would they look in a Toronto uniform?
Oh boy, but
it would be unbelievable.
Well, Coleman again goes from a jack to a king with the brutal giveaway in overtime against the Islanders, and then that diving. I don't know, once in a lifetime. That's like the Larry Mize shot in the Masters in the extra holes, but it's all going his way. So the numbers are probably going to go his way as far as on the paycheck as well. But another guy that pops up, just we're throwing some names out here, is Kyle Palmieri. Palmieri was outstanding for the Islanders down the stretch and in the playoffs, but he made $4.6 million. He'd fit in with our scenario on less for more term. But he's 30, so what's the fair number on regarding term? But if teams are leaning that way, as you and I have discussed, that eliminates, again, limiting Toronto bearing a big move. Teams, if I'm in that position, would rather look at somebody like Gabriel Landeskog, a less for more term. He's 28 years old, a little better player. Teams in like the Rangers in Arizona are obviously going to be out there to spend some money because they do have some to throw around. And there's just a couple. There's others that are in that position as well. But I'm one of those guys. I'm maybe looking at a name like Landeskog. But this may open the door a smidge. And again, here we are reaching to slip it and grab a player like a Coleman or a Palmieri for less, which is a bit of a stretch, as I've just said, with the hard cap. And you mentioned just a couple of seconds ago. But anything is a possibility.
Well, anything is possible, and we're seeing the trend. I think, which we're going to see going forward, is more term, less money, and if that works out, and those guys are interested in coming to Toronto for less money but more term, well, then the possibility, the door opens a little bit for Palmieri or Coleman or Goudreau. Landeskog, I think, is a stretch because. He's the captain of that team. He's a heck of a player. Yeah. I'm not sure they could afford to get him, but those other guys, I mean, like I said, all of a sudden you go, okay, I'll take 7 years, but I want 2.5 or 3 million. Then there's possibilities there. But do you give a 30-year-old 7 years?
Oh, I'm looking at maybe those guys would be 3 to 5 at the max. And Landeskog is, you misunderstood me. Landeskog is off the chart for Toronto. They can't even look at him. What I'm saying is, other teams focus on the bigger names. Maybe you can slip in and grab one of these guys on a 3-4 year deal and pay him a little bit. It's something like they had with Matt Martin a few years ago, who would still look good in the Toronto uniform, by the way. Well, Squid, unlike Mick Jagger, time is not on our side. So let's look once again to Winston Churchill for an inspirational send-off. You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Here's our send out for this week. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. Nothing could be truer for Toronto going into free agency. Hey, nothing could be truer going into free agency for Toronto.
Absolutely. I mean, unless, like we've discussed many times, unless there's a big deal on the horizon that's going to loosen up some money for them to go after guys like that, then, you know, I don't see anything like that happening. But
we got to keep hoping.
Winston Churchill might be right.
He may be right. So we'll just have, and again, we will watch with real interest. So, folks, thanks for listening, everyone. Join us again Wednesday at 6:30. A little delayed time today for scheduling to review Game 5 or recap the Cup win for Tampa. We'll speak a little more about free agency and the Leafs. Rick Dudley joins us this week on our podcast. So don't forget to tune in on Friday when it drops at 6 p.m. Enjoy the game, everyone, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday.